come to Paul Ricard for round number 2 of the 2020 International GTOpen. After a fantastic start to the season just a couple of weeks ago in the Hungaroring, we now come across to France to do it all again for the second round of the season. My name's Chris McCarthy. It's an absolute pleasure to be here on what is a glorious day here in France. High temperatures, as you can see, 31 degrees. It's going to be a hot one out there for the drivers. I'm sure a fantastic one to watch as well. As ever, they went out for qualifying this morning, and that has set the grid for the 70-minute race coming up. Cars just making their way round to the grid, as then we will get ready to go racing. Well, a new pole sitter for this season, TF Sport, after an impressive second race last time out. Overall, they just got better and better at the first round, and now they're going to line up from pole position. It was Charlie Eastwood who was in the car for them. They come into this 5th in the championship, 6th they were in race 1, and then 3rd in race 2. And Charlie Eastwood took quite a comfortable pole position as well. And he said he didn't go out on new tyres whilst he was getting the brakes, bedding the brakes in and so on. And then when he hit those new tyres, he just knew the car was going to be at its best. And the Irishman got that Aston Martin round to qualify on pole position. That's the number 7 Optimum Motorsport car. They're actually going to start from 3rd place. And there you see the number 28 Team Lazarus car, Petru Umburescu, will be in for them this time to go alongside Stefano Coletti. That's a car that had an absolute dismal first round, and mostly just down to bad luck, to be honest. Petru Umburescu, Stefano Coletti not having a good run of things at all. Petru Umburescu really didn't, I don't think he really got a lap in during that race. He had a spin coming up towards the uphill left-hander, and it seemed that it was sort of down to car faults rather than him for Petru. That meant they were forced to retire in race 1, and we never saw them in race 2. We're on board with Florian Schultz. Florian Schultz, who races alongside Jens Liebhauser in their Get Speed Performance team. They are going to start this one from 10th place, but we can see our pole sitters in the number 34 making their way down at the middle of the starting grid to put themselves on pole position for this one. And great to see an Aston Martin at the head of the field. We knew TF Sport coming into this season that they were going to be ones to watch, given their credentials and their results that they score in the FIA World Endurance Championship. Tyler Ulick and Charlie Eastwood have 3 wins to their name so far this season in that championship. So both going along very well. They've raced as teammates now for a few years, of Charlie and Sally. So they know that car very well, and they know each other very well. And that certainly helps throughout a season. This is Louis Pret and Vincent Abriel we are on board with. They took the 2nd race win last weekend. The first one going to Christian Klein and Patrick Krupinski. They're going to start on the front row as well, with Christian Klein in the car. So what a battle that's going to be between Christian and Charlie at the start of the race. Going off qualifying pace, you'd think that Charlie Eastwood would run away with this in his stint, but I imagine that's going to change when we hit racing mode, and the time's very close behind between Christian Klein in 2nd down to Louis Pret in 6th. There's just 0.2 of a second. This is the number 28 who we were talking about, Team Lazarus, Petru Umburescu there, the Romanian driver, just pulling into grid slot. The other Team Lazarus car starting in 5th of Fabrizio Crestani and Yannick Mettler. That's a team that got no testing in yesterday in that car. They were having power steering issues, so it was their first real taste of things when they got out there. And Fabrizio Crestani qualifying on 5th place. You'd expect they would only go better this time. There you can see the JP Motorsport car, who took the first win of the season in a first race that ended under the safety car. We had 2 safety cars towards the end of that race, and they're going to pull into grid slot there on the front row. This the number 13. It's going to be the car that rounds out the field of Alexander Moseev and Alexei Nezov in the Am class. In terms of leading class leaders, so we got, of course, Eastwood and Ulick overall, Klein and Koprinski Pro-Am, and your Am leaders is going to be, well, your Am leader is going to be Nicky Luttweiler. So let's start with our pole sitter then, the 24-year-old from Belfast, a Northern Irishman, Charlie Eastwood, is going to start from pole position in that TF Sport car. Finished third in the FI World Endurance GT Am standings last year and currently second this year with 3 wins. Then we come to Christian Klein for JP Motorsport. Won the first race of the season. Ex-Formula 1 driver, of course, is Christian Klein. He and Patrick Koprinski winning the first race of the season. Hello. There he is. Third place on the grid is going to be Ollie Milroy for Optimum Motorsport, the team that has swapped over to the McLaren this year. Ollie Milroy actually won something going back years called the South Garda Winter Cup. Real famous race in karting that has been won by absolute legends in the sport. Ollie was one of those people to win that. Joe Osborne new in for this round. He's swapped with James Pickford to come in for the Optimum Motorsport team, the 31-year-old from Bedford, former Dubai 24-hour winner. Then we come to Fabrizio Crestani in 5th place. 2 wins and 21 podiums to his name in this championship so far, looking to do a good job for the Bentley. Then we come to Louis Pret, the Monegasque driver. He's going to start from 6th place, someone you would have seen in the 24-hour Le Mans last year if you watched it. So racing in the World Endurance Championship Peloton competition. Okay, so here was a look at the first round. There you can see one of the incidents that happened at the start of the race. A real shame to have the season get underway like that, and it led to some drama. This was when we had that number 11 coming through, making contact there with Stefano Coletti, unfortunately, and that would pretty much be where the Coletti's weekend went wrong. This was the start to restart, and then we had this big crash for Elite Racing. That would be the end of their weekend, and the race would end under the safety car with JP Motorsport taking the race win. Teo Martin Motorsport would lead us off 1 and 2 for them on the grid with AF Corsa in 3rd, TF Sport in 4th place. Teo Martin Motorsport making more moves there on Get Speed Performance as they make their way back through the order. We had battling going on behind that as well. Fantastic battles all the way through. Fabian Schiller, you saw in the yellow car there, making his way through the field to eventually go on to finish in 2nd place. But taking the win would be at the AF Corsa car, Vincent Abriel and Louis Pret, with Fabian Schiller 2nd after a last lap move on Charlie Eastwood and Sally Ulick. Race number 1 about to get underway here at round number 2. Let's run through your grid for you. Drivers who qualified this morning are going to start the race. So Charlie Eastwood and Christian Klein will be on row number 1, then Ollie Milroy and Joe Osborne. It's an all Opta Motorsport row number 2. Behind that, Fabrizio Crestani for Lazarus Racing, then AF Courses. Louis Pret will be row number 3. Row number 4, Petru Umberescu, the other Lazarus car, will be on row 4 with Miguel Ramos for Teo Martin Motorsport. Nicky Luttweiler on his own will be row number 5 with Florian Schultz next along for Get Speed Performance. Then just outside the top 10, Marcelo Hahn for Teo Martin Motorsport, and the returning SBS Automotive, they'll be on the outside of row 6. Row 7 will be Angelo Negro for AF Corsa, and then the AKM Motorsport car with Alexander Moseev will be on the outside of row 7 and will round out the field. In terms of the overall championship, your leaders are Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos. They lead the overall championship. Not a good qualifying for them, though. They start down in 8th place. 2nd in the championship, it's where they are on the grid. Christian Klein and Patrick Koprinski. 3rd in the championship, just 4 points back from leaders. Can't really pay too much attention to the points at this stage, though, but Marcelo Hahn and Alan Coder, for those who are interested, they were 3rd in the championship, took a podium last time as well, but they are down in 11th in qualifying. And then we have Vincent Abriel and Louis Pret went from retirement to a race win. Start this one down in 6th place. Sally Ulick and Charlie Eastwood, who are on pole position, sit 5th in the standings, and we have Fabian Schiller and Max next along in the championship. Sadly, they're not out there. Then we have Fabrizio Crestani and Yannick Mettler. They're going to be starting in 5th place for this one. 8th in the championship, Nico Bastian and Marcus Seller for HTP. Jens Liebhauser and Florian Schultz, they're 9th in the standings. And that will be 10th on the grid for this one. And then we have Brendan Iring and Ollie Milroy with a 5th and 11th. And they are going to be on the inside of row 2. So 70-minute race. You have to make a pit stop during it as well. And all but Nicky Luttweiler will do driver changes at that stage. Pit stop window will open in 28 minutes time. So we go on board with Florian Schultz and Jens Liebhauser here. Just making their way down the back straight. If you're not familiar with the Paul Ricard circuit, I'm sure most of you are. Circuit that, of course, a lot of lengthy straights around here. So if you watched our GT Cup Open Europe race earlier, you would have seen that it was an absolutely fantastic race. So this one could be a cracker as well, I'm sure. Drivers now making their way down the back straight and up towards turn number 11. But this one should be a good one in terms of the drivers out there that have won races around here. Miguel Ramos won here in 2016. Likewise did Fabrizio Crestani. Ramos went on to win the following year on the Saturday as well. Alexander Mosiv also winning on that day, and he's actually the most successful driver around here. He also won the following year. Marcelo Hahn is a race winner around here, as is Valentin Pierreberg, Alexander Raturina, Martin Conrad. Likewise, Marcelo Hahn, another driver to take a win. Valentin Pierreberg added to his victories around here last year. So there's plenty of people out there who have won races around this circuit. Who's going to be the next driver to go on and take a victory? As the teams get ready to watch the start of the race, there you can see the Lazarus team members getting ready to watch the start. Team Lazarus looking to get on the podium for the first time this season. One of their cars sadly having a DNF and a retirement with DNS. And then Fabrizio Crestani had a 4th and a 7th. Let's see if they can get a podium for the first time. Team Lazarus will start from 5th and 7th place. It's round number 2, race number 1. On the front row is going to be TF Sport and JP Motorsport. Optimum Motorsport fill row 2. Then it's Lazarus, AF Corsa, Lazarus, Teo Martin. Nicky Luttweiler will be on row 5 with Get Speed Performance. 70 minutes are on the clock. We wait for the lights to go green, and they do. We're off away and racing, and Charlie Eastwood in the red Aston Martin there is going to lead us down towards turn number 1. It looks like Christian Klein is being passed here by both Optimum Motorsport cars. The AF Corsa car, who we briefly go on board with there, is having the Team Lazarus car to deal with. This is, oh, Get Speed Performance, contact for them there. They run wide. I think that was one of the Team Lazarus cars who clattered into the side of them. We'll have to have another look at it. They may have some damage there as Optimum Motorsport going head-to-head, going down through turns 3 and 4. Lazarus running a little bit wide. Both Lazarus cars running wide. This is the Louis Pret and Vincent Abril car that took a race win in the second race of the weekend at Hungary. And there's one of the Lazarus cars in the Bentley to the left-hand side of the screen, who clearly has some damage and is going to drop all the way to the back of the field. So the trend of bad starts in race 1 continues for Team Lazarus. This is Florian Schultz and Jens Liebhauser. They may have made some progress out of this. I think they're the car that is challenging the AF Corsa car in the background. Is in the background here. We come in towards turns 8 and 9. Lazarus there going toe-to-toe with AF Corsa, and then it's that Get Speed Performance car we were on board with. Just behind that, there's the SPS Automotive car, but let's go back on board here with the APM Monaco AF Corsa car of Louis Pret and Vincent Abril. Louis Pret in that car started 6th place. Team Lazarus just ahead of us now as we come through turn number 10 for the first time. Florian Schultz sitting in just behind that, as round a long right-hander now at turn 11 we go. So a fairly chaotic start here to the race, just like we had in race number 1 at the Hungaroring a couple of weeks ago. Up through the left-hander, there's Nicky Luttweiler we're watching now in that Porsche, doing the race all on his own. He's the only driver out there to do so. You'll have to be forced to stay in the pits for a certain length of time. As around now the penultimate corner and into the final corner. We'll get the order for you when they cross the line as we go back on board with the AF Corsa team here at Lazarus Car just ahead of us. So Eastwood leads from Joe Osborne by 1.6 seconds, and it's Ollie Milroy, Christian Klein, Fabrizio Crestani, Louis Pret, who we ride on board with, challenging Fabrizio Crestani, but he has to be careful because he's got Florian Schultz behind him. Then we have championship leader Miguel Ramos sitting in 8th place, Nicky Luttweiler is 9th, then it's Marcelo Hahn, Christian Hook, who races alongside Pierre Berg, is 11th, then it's Umberescu in that other Lazarus car that appeared to be damaged, and then Angelo Negro and Alexander Mosey just behind that. I don't hear any cars in the pit lane, but we are towards the end of it. If you see anyone coming into pits, we'll let you know. But this is the AF Corsa. One of the race winners so far this season, sat behind that Lazarus car. 6th place we are on board with as they go onto the back straight once more. This is the closest battle within, or one of the closest battles within the top 10, because Miguel Ramos, a little bit further back, is challenging Florian Schultz for 7th place. Here we can see one of the Optimum Motorsport cars going through picture. Let's have a replay of the start then. Okay, so down towards turn 1, there was no problems for TF Sport out front. This was where we went 3 o'clock just behind that with 2 Optimum Motorsport cars, JP Motorsport car on the outside, and then as GetSpeed went to turn into the corner, obvious contact with, that was Lazarus. Let's have a look. So GetSpeed on the far left of screen in the white car. That was neither, wasn't it? That was Nicky Luttweiler he actually made contact with, who appeared to just be getting sandwiched out. That was AF Corsa who were forced to run over the tarmac runoff. And as long as they didn't make any places, they should be okay. If they have, and they'll have to get those people back through, or it will be given a drive-through penalty. To the final corner, we see Christian Klein now for JP Motorsport in at number 88. This battle for 5th place continuing here between Louis Pret and Fabrizio Crestani. It's the first of those we ride on board with. Now here is SPS Automotive on the car in the middle, and SPS Automotive on the car spinning round. Christian Hook not having a good start to the race at all, is he? He's in with Valentin Pierreberg for this one. Valentin Pierreberg's usual teammate Tom Onslow Cole not here. They were runners-up in Pro-Am last year. All went wrong for them at the final round of the season. As we look at the 2nd place team now, Joe Osborne. This is his first race of the season as he now comes through turn 7. There is Ollie Milroy, teammate in chase. Driver who was 5th in the first race of the season. Louis Pret now back on board with him. And it looks like that gap to Crestani is extending, isn't it? It's now 1.4 seconds between Crestani and Pret. That's for Christian Klein. He's 1.4 back from Ollie Milroy. This is Christian. Looked like that was Christian Hook. That's one of the GetSpeed cars. They look very similar, I have to say. GetSpeed, we were looking at there, the white Mercedes just in the back of picture. There is the 26 Team Lazarus car. So this is the white Mercedes I was talking about. It's the GetSpeed performance car of Florian Schultz. 7th place. That's the championship leader of Miguel Ramos behind and has now run wide. And we should see the Teo Martin Motorsport car come through. No, we don't. So gets away with that one, does Florian Schultz. Teo Martin Motorsport behind this. Miguel Ramos will be handing over to Enrique Chavez. Charlie Eastwood now making his way down the start-finish straight. So far, so good for him. His gap is 3.2 seconds. They're really starting to show the pace now, TF Sport. What you would have expected to see right from the off. I'm not saying that they had a bad run at round 1, but some people would have expected them to be perhaps one of the favourites for the race win, myself included. Fabrizio Crestani did not get much testing in, if any, yesterday after that power steering issue. Now that is all fixed. Fabrizio Crestani seems to be doing okay at the moment. This is the battle then a little bit further back. That is a lock-up there for Florian Schultz. Miguel Ramos trying to make his way through. Been a good weekend so far for Teo Martin Motorsport at all. as they make their way now through turns number 6, and there is smoke coming from the back of that GTOpen Performance car. There's evident damage there. That could force a pit stop now for GTOpen Performance. It just looks like there's a bit of the bodywork on that car potentially just rubbing off something. And I think that might be what's causing the smoke. I don't think it's an engine issue. It could be. You'd hope it would be the first of those, but either way, that's going to have the GTOpen Performance team a little bit concerned as up towards turn number 10. And there you can see Miguel Ramos, who's going to be even more eager to get by Florian Schultz. Coming through turn number 11, on board with Florian Schultz. Doesn't seem to be slowing up, seems to be going about his business as he usually would. We don't see a Am Podium motorsport car coming flying through, do we? That's Nicky Leutwiler. The smoke seems to have stopped now, so a temporary engine problem, but whatever it was, certainly doesn't seem to be smoke coming off that car anymore. So, phew, that's a relief for the GTOpen Performance team as they now make their way down the start-finish straight. Could be the biggest movers in the field. 3 places gained for them so far. Miguel Ramos behind there in 8th place. Miguel Ramos, good first round for them. 2nd and a 4th place it was for them at round number 1. Very pleased with that. They will want to go after that race win here, or at least more podiums today. So race wins off the cards, isn't it? Particularly in this race anyway. But that podium last time made it 70 for Miguel Ramos this season. He'll want to add to the title. He has. He won the 2015 GT3 Pro-Am Championship in International GTOpen, and on his 10th season he really want to make that 2 titles. Maybe add to some of those victories as well, the 30 that he currently has to his name. As through the chicane now, this Miguel Ramos that we are talking about there in the 59. Up ahead, Christian Klein, more the one that's coming under pressure here than putting pressure on anyone. Nicky Leutwiler, speaking of that, in the Porsche, the red and white Porsche coming through picture now. He is under all sorts of pressure himself here from Marcelo Hahn. Marcelo Hahn trying to make his way through and inside the top 10. Not quite able to find a way through just yet. Here's Marcelo Hahn in the McLaren. Behind him is Petru Umberescu after that disappointing start. Clearly there wasn't too much damage on that car because they of course still are going around. But what it has done is really put them on the back foot here. Petru Umberescu will hand over to Stefano Coletti when he comes into the pits. There is Enrique Chavez we saw looking on, watching his teammate, which is on screen now, 2nd in queue. Miguel Ramos challenging for 7th place. Probably it's going to be a little bit frustrating this for Ramos because that is a Am team ahead with Florian Schultz. Here is Nicky Leutwiler, who is about to come under pressure and potentially lose a place here from Marcelo Hahn. Marcelo Hahn not able to find a way through, and in the background, Petru Umberescu will want to start his recovery as well as they come now out of turn 6 up towards turn number 7 they go. This is going to turn from a 2-way fight into a 3-way fight now, isn't it? Down the back straight, this now for the 6th time. It's still Eastwood who leads, and he leads by just under 5 seconds. But in the background there, Nicky Leutwiler, is he about to lose a place on Marcelo Hahn? Marcelo Hahn comes down the inside, not quite able to get through. Brave stuff that from Leutwiler to stay around the outside. The Teo Martin car not quite able to make a move. And here comes the Lazarus car in the background as well. So 3, it is now battling over 9th place as they head up towards turn number 10. This on lap number 6 now of the race. Driver changes just over 15 minutes away. into turn 11. Nicky Leutwiler doing a good job. His defensive driving here, of course, there's just under an hour to go. So some would say, wouldn't it just be better to let him through for now and damage limitation, so to speak? But no, that's not the case, because if he defends, then he's just going to allow Umberescu to come into play. And if those two get into their fight of their own, then Nicky Leutwiler will get the breathing space that he has been after as he heads now through the left into the right. Clever driving that from Nicky Leutwiler, who sensed that there was a move coming there from Miguel Ramos. Miguel Ramos is now going to have to stay in behind down the start-finish straight, and Nicky Leutwiler taking the inside line. So he's taken the decision which way he wants to go about this. So Miguel Ramos is now going to have to look to the outside. Nicky Leutwiler coming back across to take a predominantly racing line. And there is Petru Umberescu now, who has made this a trio rather than a duo with one in chase. This is the main battle on track. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen all the positions and the gaps between each driver. And this very much where it is all kicking off. Up the road a little bit, the fourth place could be an area we have to keep in mind, because Christian Klein has two drivers not too far behind, and those were the ones that did just pop through the bottom of our picture. But now you can see the Bentley there, piloted by Umberescu, is about to make a move down the straight, and that is going to be Umberescu going through into 10th place past Marcelo Hahn. So he's going to get his own turn at trying to get past Nicky Leutwiler now. There's Enrique Chavez watching on. He's watching on the Miguel Ramos battle, which is happening just a little bit ahead. It's going to be where his attention certainly is, but now it's the turn of Umberescu to see if he can get past Nicky Leutwiler, what it will be for 9th place as they head through turn 11. A long right-hander. Oh, and that's a mistake, isn't it, there from Marcelo Hahn. Marcelo Hahn, frustration you sense in his driving there after losing that place, immediately making a mistake. Just frustrating driving from him. 55 minutes on the clock, and just over 13 minutes until we get to pit stops, and Charlie Eastwood set a fastest lap. Now Nicky Leutwiler, the exact same defensive line he took before. I think we do know this Bentley's handy in a straight line as they head down the start-finish straight, and is there going to be a move here from Umberescu? He looks to the outside going down towards turn number 1, and is Team Lazarus going to be able to put themselves into 9th? Yes, they do. Thank you very much, and see you later. That is Umberescu going through, so he heads up into 9th place. The recovery well underway for him now. Nicky Leutwiler will hope to be able to hang on, otherwise it's going to be the same battle between Leutwiler and Hahn, albeit for 10th place rather than for 9th place. But he set a new fastest lap last time. It was Charlie Eastwood, and so far so good for him. His gap 6.2 seconds over Joe Osborne on his first race this season. He's got himself a 2.5 gap over Ollie Milroy, and it is Christian Klein in 4th place, Crestani in 5th place, Pret in 6th, Ramos, Schultz and Umberescu and Leutwiler running out your top 10. There you can see how the gaps are going up between Charlie Eastwood and Joe Osborne. On average, sort of half a second increase. And with still over 10 minutes to go until that pit stop window opens, Eastwood is going to hand over to Sally Ulick with a pretty handy gap here. We can see replay coming through the first couple of corners there for Ollie Milroy. Demanding track this will be on the tyres, not just because of the heat, but also because of the fast sweepers we've got at the likes of turn 11, turn 12, turn 14 is another, turn 6 is another, so it is a hugely demanding track on tyres. Ollie Milroy will be hoping to do his best in his stint here, keep a respectable gap to Joe Osborne ahead of him, and in the meantime build a gap over Christian Klein behind him, and so far he is doing that. The gap to Christian Klein is now 4.6 seconds. This is Louis Pret in 6th place. Well, for him, he's got very comfortable gap behind him. Miguel Ramos is now the driver behind him. But ahead of him, not too far. Oh, there we had a move. That was definitely a move, wasn't it, going on there? That was looked to be, that was Schultz and Ramos battling away, was it? No, in fact, it was, apologies, that looked to be like the SBS automotive car that's involved in this. That is Christian Hook. And Angelo Negro, that is the second of the AF Corsa APM Monaco cars. Christian Hook, we had that spin earlier down in 14th place here, with Negro in 13th place. It's a Pro-Am car trying to get past him. One of the Am cars, vice versa. Am team is Christian Hook and Valentin Pierreberg. Pro-Am for Angelo Negro. He's racing alongside Stefan Ortelli, who he will hand over to when he makes his stop. For those of you new to the championship, what we mostly tend to see, sometimes teams like just split the race down the middle, but mostly, if you're in the Pro-Am category, they tend to either come in right at the start or right at the end of the pit stop window. For the Pro class, I guess it really just depends on the situation. Likewise in Am as well, it just depends what's going on track at the time, what position you're in, what the gaps around. If they see it, a opening within the times where they think if we come out, if we pit now, we come out, we're going to have clean air, and they'll just go for it. This is Marcelo Hahn battling away with Nicky Luttweiler. Well, we did talk about this before. We did say once Borescu gets through, that'll be some breathing space for Nicky Luttweiler for a small while, but now it's the battle between these two has resumed. It's very frustrating if you're in Marcelo Hahn's situation and you've been trying to get past Nicky Luttweiler and then not being able to get through. You've been caught by Petru Razvan Borescu. He's gone past you and the driver ahead and cleared off into the distance, and you're still where you once were. That, as a driver, is a hugely, hugely frustrating scenario. And that is exactly the situation the 52-year-old is in. Marcelo Hahn certainly had his seasons. He's Marcelo Hahn, 2013 GT3 South American champion. It's his 4th season now in the International GTOpen. 6 wins and 14 podiums for him during that time. And has had 2 championship podiums. He finished 3rd in class the last 2 seasons. As we look at the number 22 there of Nicky Luttweiler. Just goes to show some of the drivers. We've got some good young up-and-coming drivers, and we've got some of the professionals, likes of Stefano Coletti, drivers in their 30s, but we've got the likes of Nicky Luttweiler as well. It's 2 drivers over the age of 50. Nicky Luttweiler, 59 years old, and he's the driver we're looking at there in the red and white Porsche. And well, he's raced everywhere. Nicky Luttweiler, he was a champion in the Asian Le Mans series back in 2016. Some big races on his way to that title, and a real great battle to watch, isn't it? This is the first stint of these races for these guys. That when you find out that Nicky Luttweiler is on his own, he's 59 years old, it's even more impressive than what it would be if he was 29 years old. To do the GTOpen Europe race earlier as well, he didn't do that on his own, but he did still do a fairly lengthy stint, 20-odd minutes or so in that one, and then to go out after that and do 70 minutes is pretty impressive. And you've got to take into account that there was a qualifying session earlier as well for International GT, which was 25 minutes, which was half an hour. Overall, he's done a lot of track time today. I wasn't quite adding that up as I went along, but he's done good 90 minutes to 120 minutes. The age he's at, that's very impressive stuff. But let's talk about the situation we have here in the podium positions. Now this is, oh, that's the Lazarus car going round. That's Crestani's car, and Crestani, as I look over to the timing screen, is tumbling down the order, and he's dropped to 8th place. So Fabrizio Crestani, what a shame, because he was closing in on Christian Klein, and unfortunately he has now given himself a lot of work to do going forward in this race. He's under pressure as well from his teammate Petru Razvan Umberescu. There you can see that 8th and 9th place, Crestani and Umberescu. And a real shame, just seemed to do it all on his own as well. He's tagged into a spin, was he, as he come round the long right-hander of turn 6. 5 minutes now until we are going to be going into driver changes. We're in the lull of the race here, where everyone's getting themselves ready for that one and only pit stop. It's when everyone's been in and out again, that is usually where the race really starts to come to life. This is the point in the race where everyone finds themselves predominantly by themselves, and they've just got to try and put in those lap times. There's going to be some drivers out there with, of course, pit stops come with handicaps, depending on how well you're doing. Some drivers are going to have bigger handicaps than others, and it's about making up for that handicap. So for Charlie Eastwood, for example, for him it's just about building this gap to the optimal cars behind him. And for the guys behind him, it's just about keeping that gap. So when we do go in the pits, you will either be going past or you'll be bringing that gap right down. As here we can still see this battle going on between Nicky Luttweiler and Marcelo Hahn. And Marcelo Hahn, he will be racing him through the pit lane at this rate, won't he? He's hugely frustrated in that car. But Nicky Luttweiler, in his defence, he's not put a foot wrong at all, has he? He's just going about things like he would be on practice laps, not opening the door at all to Marcelo Hahn. But going back to what I was saying, drivers will either be building those gaps, or they're trying to keeping them within a certain length once they get in and out the pit stops. And we have new drivers coming out fresh with car already warmed up for them. That is when we start to see the race come to life, and we start to know exactly what the situation is, because it is a case at this stage, even now, we don't really know what the situation is just yet. It's something that we will find out once everyone has been through the pits. The Weiler battle still rumbling on here, as we see drivers starting to get themselves ready now for pit stops. That looked like Enrique Chavez, I think that was, getting himself geared up for a stop. And the stops are going to happen in 2 minutes' time, so we really are close to seeing the first pit stops. And they've been given a lot of TV time. It's still the battle going on here, just in the background. Nicky Luttweiler versus Marcelo Hahn, but not being given an inch as they come up to turn at number 10. And Hahn just getting out of the toe there for a brief second, just to have a look, just to put the pressure on Luttweiler. He's almost saying, I can come past if I want to. You've got to make sure you defend. Just trying to force Nicky Luttweiler into a mistake. But so far, Nicky Luttweiler is not biting at all. As for Eastwood, his gap is 8.3 seconds. I think Joe Osborne in the second half of this first half of the race, might sound a bit strange, but it's towards the second half of it, Joe Osborne has stabilised that gap a lot more than what it was at the start of the races into the last corner. Now, here we go. This is Marcelo Hahn taking a wider line. It was almost fully on the outside going into that last corner. But on the exit, Nicky Leutwiler just seems to have the legs down the start-finish straight, so it's going to stay as it was. And in less than 30 seconds, when that clock on the top left of your screen says 41 minutes remaining in the race, that is when the pit stop window will open. Who are we going to see go in first? That's what it's going to come down to. If you're Charlie Eastwood, you're going to stay out there for as long as possible, surely, but this is that battle going on for 10th place. Nicky Leutwiler in the white Porsche, the McLaren behind. That is Marcelo Hahn. But the driver changes are now allowed to start. Oh, that's one of the Optimum Motorsport cars having a run over the curb. Joe Osborne just taking a little bit too much, a little bit too friendly with one of the curves there. This is Nicky Leutwiler here, and Marcelo Hahn. How many times have I said that? They just can't seem to leave each other alone, can they? As they come up towards turn number 10, and Marcelo Hahn still not able to get away through. As the changes are now on, and that looked like someone that was in the pits there. I think the first driver changes are just about to happen now. Oh, and trying to get down the inside there, that was Marcelo Hahn. Signs of more and more frustration as he tried to stick a nose down the inside, and that was just never going to work. So 13 minutes remaining of pit stops here, and now joining me is Elliott Wood as we go on board with Louis Pret, who's getting out of the car, and Vincent Abril will jump in the car. But Elliott, you've been, I guess, paying attention in the background to the first half of the race. What have you made of things so far?
I think it's very impressive that all 14 of the cars are still in action after 45 minutes. We don't usually see that in GTOpen races, and we certainly didn't see it in the smaller entry list of the GT Cup Open Europe this morning. So I think clean racing. There have been a few steward decisions that should go to the stewards, but you know, good racing so far.
Yep, and now we get to the pit stop phase. It's all about whether TF Sport, once we are in and out again, whether they are in the lead and then whether they'll be able to hold on to the lead. This is Nicky Leutwiler, and I think he could do with a rest after the amount of pressure he has had to deal with. So Enrique Chavez has jumped in the car in the number 59 Am Podium Motorsport car. He's jumped in for Miguel Ramos. They've been in. Nicky Leutwiler is in. Louis Pret has swapped with Vincent Abril, so Abril is going to come in. There you can see Valentin Pierberg, sorry, he's about to step into the car. So emerging from the car, there was Christian Hook. He had a spin during his stint. This is the number 48 now in picture of Angelo Negro. He's going to jump out of the car, and Stefan Ortelli will jump in for them. Fuel going into the car, so we're going to go through a stage of 10 minutes or so where things are all going to start to look very different, and then they will sort themselves out again. But Charlie Eastwood leading so far, doing a great job out front. Sally Ulick awaits to get himself in the car, but this has been a hugely impressive stint so far from Charlie Eastwood to build a gap of 9 seconds over the rest of the field.
Yeah, and hopefully his pit stop time doesn't have to be 10 seconds longer than the driver closest to him, because obviously with the handicap system in International GTOpen, you have a base pit stop time and then add 5 or 10 seconds on in increments, depending on your previous form.
Well, we'll see it when they come in. They will, it will come up, which what his handicap is exactly. Here's the Lazarus Racing car now coming into pit lane. You can see 75-second handicap for Stefan, for Petro Ambrescu, who's going to swap around with Stefano Coletti. So let's see what Coletti can do. 85 seconds it is for Christian Hahn and Marcelo Hahn as they now make their way into the pit lane. On board with Vincent Abril, who's now in the pits. Right, in the pits. Who's now making his way around turn 12. Oh dear. Vincent Abril, though, he's swapped round with Pret. He's now back in. And these two, as we said, race win in the second race at round number 1. Out of the final corner, now down the start-finish straight. We await to see everyone come in, though, to find out exactly where they are. Yet to come into the pits is Eastwood, Osborne, Milroy, Schultz, and Crestani. All of those guys have yet to make a stop. Crestani has had that spin, so he's going to be losing even more time than he would have done if he just had a clean run round, let alone we'll have to see what their handicap is. But this is Eastwood, and with 9 minutes to go, I'd say roughly in about 8 minutes' time, he'll probably head in.
Yeah, and I think it goes down to about a minute, goes down to 9th place between Eastwood and the Enrique Chavez car, or potentially just after Enrique Chavez. Although it's coming up now 1 minute 46 actually. So yeah, so sector time's a bit out there. 43 seconds to 6th place Fabrizio Crestani. So Eastwood's at least going to come out in 7th when he does make his stop. And potentially the Crestani car.
That is the number 28 Lazarus being pushed back into the garage. Now, that is the car that didn't finish the first race at round 1 and didn't start the second race. And it looks like that once again they are not going to even finish. So they haven't finished a race all season, and things looking just as bad here for Team Lazarus.
Yeah, very odd that they've had persistent reliability issues on a car that's well developed by now. You don't often see that in GT racing, as two McLarens go alongside each other. One's the blue McLaren, quite literally, and the other is the Inception one. Both pretty iconic liveries. And they come out the chicane. By being identical cars, it's going to be very hard to overtake one another because, you know, they've got the same performance through corners and the straights.
It's turn 10. Now they go through McLaren versus McLaren. 6 cars. We await for them to come into the pits. Stefan Ortelli, he's in the number 48. We saw that pit stop happen just a couple of laps ago. But this Christian Hahn, see the number 7 here, Rolly Milroy.
And Enrique Chavez has just set fastest lap by some margin.
Well, that's impressive stuff, that from Enrique Chavez. He's taken over from Miguel Ramos, and as you said, yeah, 2 minute and 1 seconds, 0.8. Really impressive stuff, that. Eastwood still stays out. There's Nicky Luttweiler, and then behind that, that is one of the Optimum cars coming through the start-finish line. It's the number 72 of Joe Osborne in that car. And he's stabilised that gap to Charlie Eastwood. It's remaining at 9 seconds. Ollie Milroy still in 3rd place. Christian Klein in 4th. Which one of those will be through pit lane first? Christian Klein, he will stay right out to the death as well. Florian Schultz, after his performances at round 1, you'd think he'd also stay out to the end of the race. And then Crestani is next along, and Crestani, well, after the problems the other Lazarus car has had, Fabrizio Crestani, they're just going to hope to make it to the end, I think, as this Nicky Luttweiler, who's back out on track and returns with even more pressure. This time it's one of the lead McLarens, though, so Nicky Luttweiler will have to pull out of the way and let that one go through. And that's the gap between 1st and 2nd. What it looks like, 9 seconds. Is it going to be the same when they come back out of the pits? We wait to see them come down pit road. What about Enrique Chavez? Where's he going to be able to get to? He has that fastest lap now under his belt. Starts at 2:02.3, but we've not got a lot of time. 5 minutes left until the driver changes have finished.
Yeah, and the drivers that have stopped are well over 1 minute 40 behind kind of the lead drivers that haven't stopped. So when they stop, they should realistically come out ahead, as we see the Porsche of Luttweiler getting a little jumpy out of the final corner behind the McLaren.
to deal with all pressure, but once again there, at time it's someone putting a lap rather than anything else. This is the Teo Martin Motorsport number 16 of Christian Hahn. Behind that is the other Optimum Motorsport car, Ollie Milroy is trying to make his way through. It's going to be frustrating this for Milroy because he's going to be losing time to Joe Osborne ahead of him, one of the teammates, as Enrique Chavez is going purple on this lap. Fabrizio Crestani, that's encouraging pace for Lazarus Racing. He also going purple. And this is what I was talking about before the pit stops. You sometimes have those drivers who come in right at the start, and then those that come in right at the end. And I think we're halfway between that stage now, or 2/3 of the way through that.
Yeah, so we've got Florian Scholes in 5th place from Amcar, 38 seconds off lead. And Fabrizio Crestani is going into the pits right now, but he was 1 minute 41 behind. So I believe as an Amcar, 75-second pit stop for Crestani. So this will put him somewhere back. It all depends really on what Scholes and Christian Klein as well have for their pit stop times.
Yep, we'll find out within the next 3.5 minutes. Here's Charlie Eastwood. So far, so good for Charlie Eastwood in that Aston Martin. The last win for an Aston Martin was Red Bull Ring last year in terms of overall victories. So it would be great to see one at the top step again, this time in the hands of the TF Sport team. We're now running that. That is your 2nd place driver, Joe Osborne, the Optimum Motorsport. They're having a great day. Our Optimum Motorsport 2nd and 3rd for them. Going along really well here. Their pace between the first 2 rounds has definitely
Scholes pits as well to hand over to
95 seconds though, so they're going to lose. They're going to lose a bit of time here.
Could put Chavez possibly on the podium if he's depends, because obviously he's got his tyres up to speed. Well, the cars that have pitted have got the tyres up to speed already. They're setting faster lap times, but they're going to come out in traffic, and that advantage is basically going to come to nothing.
It's number 72 of Joe Osborne. So this is Charlie Eastwood, so you'd expect this is going to be it now. He's going to have to come in on this lap. There's only 1 minute and 43 seconds left on the clock, and when we get to 28 minutes remaining, that's basically when it closes the pit window. So final couple of corners now for Charlie Eastwood, and he's done everything he can here. He's going to hand over now to Sally Ulick, who brought the car home to 3rd place at round 1. And there you can see Charlie Eastwood now pulling over to get into the pit lane entry, and into the pits he goes. So Charlie Eastwood is now into the pits. 10 seconds is the gap over Joe Osborne. A good drive from Charlie. In the pits he comes, and that has been great. 75-second handicap for them. Here comes Joe Osborne. He comes into the pits. First slot is exactly the same for him, so the gap is going to stay pretty much as it was. Likewise for Ollie Milroy and Brendan Irib. It will be more for JP Motorsport after they took their win with it. Christian Klein and Patrick Oprinsky also 75 seconds for them, so it's going to stay as it was between those guys in this battle for the lead. Where will Enrique Chavez emerge out of all of this, though? I think he's going to be in 5th. I don't think he'll be any further on the road than that, though.
Well, it depends what the length of the pit stop is. Because if anyone's got a 95-second pit stop, and potentially because there's a pro car there, and they're all pro-ams as well, so you tend to have larger ones for them, then it could have come out.
Well, all of these guys served exactly the same length of stop. The top 4, all 75 seconds in the pits for them, so they're going to come out and be exactly the same as they were. And there's no one coming down the start-finish straight, so essentially the situation is going to remain the same with drivers coming out onto the start-finish straight. Now it's down to the other drivers in the Pro-Am category. Of course, you have a Pro driver and an Am driver, so this is looking very, very good for TF Sports. It was looking good right from the start, but it's looking even better now, isn't it? Now we've had the pit stops, they still have that lead that they had before. TF Sports in a very good position here. Looking back, that is Optimum Motorsport. It took 1 win last year to Optimum Motorsport, and that was in a Aston Martin. It was the 200th International GTOpen race. Well, the 100th race was also won by an Aston Martin. They don't win very often at the moment, but when they do, they take pretty big race wins. And it looks like TF Sport are going to add to the tally of wins for the manufacturer. This is Vincent Abril. So we'll get the order for you next time they cross the line. Tell you exactly now what the situation is in terms of the standings. They're just appearing to the left-hand side of your screen now as we are into the final 30 minutes of this race. Coming through the final corner, Sally Ulick. Here comes Nick Moss. He'll be coming around the final corner, but this is Sally Ulick. So TF Sports lead the way. Sally Ulick coming across the line now. He leads the race. All it's a case for him now is stay out of trouble and hold on. In second place is Nick Moss for Optimum Motorsport. Brendan Eyrig is then in third place for Optimum Motorsport. Patrick Kroprinski is fourth place and third in the Pro-Am category for JP Motorsport. Enrique Chavez is fifth for Teo Martin Motorsport. Then we have Vincent Abril in sixth for AF Corsa. And Jens Liebhauser is the one to lead the way in the Am category. Jens Liebhauser, who driving alongside Florian Schultz, is just to make the car for him. They are looking to make it their third Am category win in as many races so far this season. However, they're going to have to hold off. Jens is going to have to hold off Nicky Luttweiler, who was just 1.5 seconds behind. And we have Christian Hahn, who could play his part in that battle. He's 6/10 back in 9th place. Then we have Alexei Nezov next along in 10th place. They will add to the 1 podium they took in class last time, as long as they're able to keep Valentin Pierreberg back in 11th place. Then Stefan Ortelli, the last of the runners, in 12th place in the number 14 AF Corsa APM Monaco car. That's your situation then. This is the Christian Hahn and Nicky Luttweiler battle. Once again, the number 16 car challenging Nicky Luttweiler, albeit this time it is Christian Hahn rather than Marcelo Hahn.
And Luttweiler's team manager has been summoned to race control. That may be for a pit stop infringement, because it doesn't look like we've had any, dangerous side-to-side action between the two Am leaders and the Pro-Am car of Hahn at the moment. And Hahn's about to go for a move with the chicane, leaving it late for the brakes, but doesn't get past Luttweiler. He must be tired now, given he did a GT Cup Open Euro race earlier today.
This is what we were saying earlier, because he did qualifying sessions as well. We did the GT Open qualifying session earlier today as well. That's 30 minutes. So he's done a lot out there today.
As the only nominated driver, he also has to do the second session tomorrow as well. Yeah.
And he has to do qualifying for GT Cup Open Europe, and then a race for that, and then a race for this, and then, after that, I'm sure he'll definitely do his bed very quickly.
Yeah, and he finished second in both GT Cup Open Euro races at Hungaroring. finished second this morning. He's second in the Am class now. Only 1.3 seconds off Jens Leibhauser, but still in second place.
He loves second place, doesn't he? He's getting to the stage now. If he was leading, he'd just pull aside and finish in second place. It's become his spot on the podium. Wouldn't be surprised if he engraves his initials onto that spot on the podium soon.
Yeah. And we do have an increased Pro-Am entry this weekend. So at the Hungaroring, it was very much the Pro-Ams and the Am drivers who are getting a lot of success and being on podiums. Whereas today we've got Sally Yulik, who was at Hungaroring last weekend, but 2 weeks ago, but didn't have as such run. And then 3 Pro-Am cars, 2 more pros, all within pretty much half a minute of the leader. Then all of our Am entries, and obviously 3 of them, 2 of them are within the second of each other for the class lead.
Now, just looking at the pace, Enrique Chavez is last time round. Enrique Chavez in 5th, and there's his team watching on. He did a 2:01.9, and everyone else ahead of him did 2:04s and 2:05s. That is seriously impressive pace. Whether Sally Yulik was delayed in traffic, there you go. Sally Yulik now does a 2:02. As we look at Enrique Chavez on screen, just about to go past Patrick Koprinski, and through he goes.
And we've just got confirmation that Luttweiler did have a pit stop infringement. He was 3 seconds, well, I presume he was 3 seconds too short on his pit stop because he was given a 3-second penalty.
He should be okay though, still. He should be second quite comfortably. Here's a replay of this move. That was the moment that Enrique Chavez decided he was going to go for it, and that was the moment he went through. And the team were happy with that one. Now, he's the one to watch in this race, Enrique Chavez. If you have just joined us, first of all, welcome, and you've come at a very good time because we're about to go into the final 10 or 20 minutes of this race. And Enrique Chavez, the driver on team next to this, shall I say, this is the number 16 of Christian Hahn, and he's about to go past Jens Leibhauser. So he's starting to make pretty good progress here, and pulls out of the slipstream, and through he goes. So that's the number 16 of Christian Hahn going through and into 7th place. But Enrique Chavez, 59, is your one to watch. This is Jens Leibhauser, having just been passed, so ahead of us that is Christian Hahn, who is now in 7th. Through turns 3, 4, 5 we go. Slightly wider line from Leibhauser. But the battle for the podium positions overall is going to start getting exciting. He's 2 seconds behind Brendan Irib in 3rd, and he's 2 seconds lap faster.
Yeah, and in the Am class, Luttweiler could still win this, even though he's now got a 3-second penalty. He's pretty much only a second behind the leader. We're seeing a replay of Hahn making his way for essentially traffic because he is significantly faster at this point of the race. And he has actually just set his, well, the car's personal best in the first sector and in the speed trap. So doing a good job right now. Vincent Abreu 4 seconds behind Kopinski. Chavez has got it down to 2 seconds to Brendan in 3rd place. It was 4 or 5 seconds last lap, so we've got 19 minutes left. He definitely could make it onto the podium in this race.
He could go even, I wouldn't say better, he could get a podium. I think he will get a podium. It's what step he's going to be on, because he, that respect, will catch Nick Moss essentially as well. Not Sally Yulik, he's far too far back for that, but there's a good possibility he could get to 2nd. There you can see Brendan Irib, there you can see the driver we have been talking about for a couple of laps now, Enrique Chavez.
In the overall points, obviously, a big difference, but if it was just looking at the pro drivers, then Enrique Chavez's performance is actually going to be a huge boost, because Chavez and Miguel Ramos do actually lead the points at the moment against Klein and Kopinski, who they've just passed. So they're going to extend that lead. Obviously, you've got the East Ridgefield car in front, but that's in 5th in the points prior to this race. And all these cars are confirmed to do the full season, so these are our title contenders. And I think Nick Moss is, well, obviously Nick Moss is in a Pro-Am car, but more of an interloper within this battle.
If Enrique Chavez does do this, it would be... there he
does.
goes. Yeah, there he goes. He's gone through. So I think it was made quite easy for him. Brendan Iroh with the mistake there. But it would be his 9th podium in the International GT Open. Only 23 years of age. Enrique Chavez finished 3rd in the championship last year. So he'll want to win the title and nothing less. That was alongside Martin Koldrich last year. Got that win at the final round at Monza in the last race of the season. That season now through to 3rd place. Now the gap next along, let's have another look at the move, and that's the moment Brendan Iroh ground widened. And there goes Enrique Chavez going through. Good awareness for Iroh to come straight back across into the path of Enrique Chavez.
10 seconds between Chavez and Moss, 15 minutes to go. Moss is dropping at least 7/10 of a second per lap to Sally Jurek. So Jurek's pretty much got this win in the bag.
Yeah,
I think Chavez could pass for 2nd place. He's losing time in overtaking, but he's overtaken the last driver he needs to overtake before Nick Moss now. So he could get 2nd place.
I think he will. I mean, how much did he catch him by? 2.5 seconds last lap between 2nd and 3rd. This is Sally Jurek, by the way, we're looking at. He is 16 seconds ahead, but the battle we are talking about is that one, that graphic across the bottom of your screen. So Enrique Chavez, 1.5 seconds. He closed in on the last lap, but look how much he closed the gaps before that. 2.2, 1.6, 3.1. The gap has come down by about 10 seconds in the space of just 4 laps.
Yeah, if it's an average of 1.7, then 10 laps would make up 17 seconds. And in fact, he could actually win this race. I think he could. The pace is currently at. Sally Jurek is also going at a similar pace, but
I think
there might be a late safety car.
Yeah, I think that's his only hope as we go on board with Vincent Averill. So this is Patrick Koprinski ahead. This is your battle for 5th place, actually, so quite an important battle, this one as well. And Averill is someone, you can see that car just ahead, not the one we're looking at, but the one ahead of that, that's Brendan Iroh. So Vincent Averill, he could be on for to get a couple more places here. He could be on for an overall podium with Vincent Averill as there. He's going to dive down the inside there of JP Motorsport car, and that is Vincent Averill past Patrick Koprinski. He's chasing down a podium here. They're going across the bottom of the screen. That's Chavez. That is Iroh, and then this is Vincent Averill, race winner from the 1st round. Through he goes. There's Christian Klein. Now, what lap times is he doing? Let's dig into lap time, shall we? So Jurek did a 2:02.9 last time. Nick Moss a 2:04.3. Chavez a 2:03.7. So we expect Chavez to close in on Nick Moss. 2:05 for Brendan Iroh. Then behind that, a 2:03 for Averill, and Patrick Koprinski a 2:04 as we see another look at that move. Here's another look at it. Just carry more speed through turn 14, sets you up nicely for the move. Just get the car stopped in time, block pass if necessary. Here we go, a nice look on board. So get the foot down as the other guy's coming across, and there you go.
Christian Hahn is the fastest driver on track at the moment in 7th place. He's probably out of contention for the Pro Am Podium, but he has been pretty quick throughout the last 10-15 minutes.
It's a safety car which would, I mean, if a safety car went out, it would be, then I wouldn't like to guess who would actually win the race. But
and Nick Moss is actually going faster than Enrique Chavez on this lap. 9.3 seconds, 30 minutes to go. Chavez might not actually get past Moss now at this rate. And it did look like Brendan Iroh did have the pace to kind of respond once he'd been passed. And same with Kopinski, he didn't drop away from Vincent Averill as soon as he passed him. He did stick to the rear of his car through the next few corners into the next lap. We see Sally Jurek cross the line for the 27th time, 2:03, 0.39. There's a 17-second lead, and we're following the battle further back between one of the McLarens, Brendan Iroh and Vincent Averill, who's already on his...
It's already on his tail.
Yeah.
Here he goes. This is the place he made a move last time, and he's going to do one once again. There you go, into turn 15, and that is a change for 2nd place, overall, for 3rd place, sorry, overall. brilliant move that from Vincent Abril.
He could actually take third place on Enrique Chavez.
Yeah, that was...
He's going faster than Chavez by over a second.
Yeah, that was a good move, that. So 2 moves exactly the same way to go from 6th to 4th in 2 laps. Great driving this from Vincent Abril. Let's have another look at it. It's almost an exact replay of the last one we saw. That time, though, Irib was wise to it, but just didn't want to fight it too hard. He could see what was going to happen, but in the end, he pulled over and just allowed the move to happen. Sensible driving, considering they're in different classes. Here we go. Wait for the driver to go left, and then through you go. So great driving that from Vincent Abril.
And what he's done is he's brought Kopinski with him. So Kopinski could pass Brendan Irib too now, which would be for 2nd place in Pro-Am classification, as Vincent Abril is already closing on Chavez, whose pace is completely stalled now he's in 3rd place. Maybe a bit of complacency, because, you know, it would have been a slightly steep task to pass Nick Moss. As Hahn sets another personal best, he's still fastest on track, pretty much, but half a minute behind Kopinski.
So Abril and Chavez. Abril's closing in on Chavez, despite making that move. So we're going to have a battle for 3rd, and potentially, if the pair of them can close in on Moss, then we'd have a 3-way battle for the last 2 steps on the podium, and one person will miss out, even though one of them will be the Pro-Am winner.
Yeah, and look, Wide has literally just on this lap dropped off the back of Jens Leibhauser for Am class lead, but he does have a 3-second penalty, so he is on the updated times 5 seconds behind. Does have a gap to Alexei Nozov, so his position's pretty secure. Sally Yoluk crosses the line again, a 2-minute 3.2, 18-second lead now, so he's still extending his lead. And Nick Moss crosses the line. Enrique Chavez, if it's more than 9.176 seconds, I think we can give up hope on... no, 8.966, so he's closed in very slightly. And Vincent Abril, a 2-minute 2.566, over a second faster, 3.2 seconds behind Chavez now.
It's getting close, isn't it? This is going to be...
Kopinski as well, 1 second behind Brendan Irib.
Yeah, Patrick Kopinski, that is for 2nd in the Pro-Am class and 5th overall. That is a battle that's going to happen, and this is it. So that is Patrick Kopinski there on screen. You can see just how close he's getting in that number 88 now on the number 7 of Brendan Irib in that McLaren. So Irib is going to have his hands full once again, but this time it's going to mean a little bit more to him because it's for 2nd in the Pro-Am class. They go onto the back straight. This now for the 29th time.
Yeah, and it's currently an Optimum Motorsport 1-2 in the Pro-Am class, and if Kopinski does get past Brendan Irib, he's
going to spoil
that. Yeah,
spoil a bit of a party there.
Oh, and Nick Moss has just set personal best, faster than Sally Yoluk, still 18 seconds behind. Chavez is closing in more. Abril's closing in even more than that. Kopinski's going quick. Hahn still half a minute behind, but pretty much fastest driver on track. Not close enough to overtake on this lap. Is the Mercedes there for Pro-Am class honours, and we'll hopefully see the final sector, because it looks like everyone's getting quicker now because of the lower fuel loads.
Yeah, as the race edges closer to the end, we are definitely seeing the lap times just get better and better now, as there you can see Patrick Kopinski in the number 88 just closing in behind Brendan Irib up towards the final couple of corners. And now there you go, Brendan Irib in that number 7. Patrick Kopinski behind, and that's a late lunge from Kopinski, and that was never going to work out, was it? Patrick Kopinski in the end having to back out of that one, and all that's done is lost him time. I think trying to catch out Brendan Irib unawares there, just didn't quite work out for him. Down towards the first corner now. Ahead of this, Abril still closing in on Enrique Chavez. That gap coming down by just under a second each lap, and with Chavez 2.4 seconds ahead of Abril, 5-6 minutes to go, they should be right with each other.
We've got a big battle at the back as well, actually. We've got Valentin Pierberg, who is setting personal bests, but being closed in on rapidly by Stefan Altelli, who's GT sports car legend. I think he won the first ever blank pan series back in 2011. He's only 1.9 seconds behind as Krupinski actually sets his personal best in the speed trap there, so he should have a good slipstream on him going down this straight.
Not able to make a move that time, but getting closer. It's the battle for second in Pro-Am class between Irib and Krupinski. 7/10 is the gap. We almost don't really need it, do we? You can just see looking at them on track. Irib here leading Krupinski down towards turn number 10. Chavez-Abril gap down to less than 2 seconds now, so that one's getting closer. So 2 big battles to watch, both for second in class, for second in the Pro class and for second in the Pro-Am class as well. Are we going to see Irib able to hold on? When's that next move from Krupinski going to come? Move at the last corner, almost catching Irib out. So Irib doing just enough in the end to hold on into the final corner. And slightly tight line there from Patrick Krupinski. Should probably harm him on the exit a little bit. Nick Moss has been hugely impressive in second to just keep that gap to Enrique Chavez. Before Chavez was in that third place, he was coming down at a rapid rate, but word has got to Nick Moss and he's upped his pace. And Chavez is going to go no further. If anything, Chavez is in danger of going backwards because he's being caught by Vincent Abril.
His tyres too early in his charge, because he did actually set fastest lap at 2:01.8. No one's dipped into the 2:01 since, but he was massively fast when he after the pit stops, and now that's kind of the role Vincent Abril's having, and he had to come even further back to make that progress.
On board with Vincent Abril, there is the target just ahead of us on screen. That is Enrique Chavez. That is a view from outside of the car. There is Vincent Abril for the AF Corsa team now making their way. There's Nick Moss goes through the turn number 10. Now here comes Enrique Chavez and Vincent Abril, and in the background that is Brendan Irib and Patrick Krupinski. On board we go with Vincent Abril through turn 10. Seems that drivers are getting away with going all 4 wheels off there. I think within limits is probably the rule there. Now through turn 11, up towards turn number 12. Just 5 minutes left on the clock. 3 laps left at max here. Is Abril going to have enough in the tank? Has he got enough left in those tyres to close this gap down and fight for an overall podium, as well as second in the Pro class, as we look back at the Krupinski and Irib battle? And I think that time Krupinski just getting his braking point a little bit wrong into turn 15, once again having to back out. Krupinski struggling just to close that gap and then wait for a chance. As soon as he's closing the gap, he's going for it straight away, no matter what the situation. So he's just got to stay in behind. There's nothing wrong with staying in behind for a few corners and putting the pressure on before you then go for an opening.
And Alexei Nezov could take second place in the Am class now, because he's 6 seconds behind Nicky Luttweiler. Luttweiler's a 3-second penalty, so that's basically a 3-second gap. He's also going a second lap quicker with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So on the timing, he might actually pass him for second place in class.
It's definitely one we've got to keep an eye on there. Alexei Nezov versus Nicky Luttweiler, 9th and 10th place overall. What's going on with Vincent Abril and Enrique Chavez? Chavez quicker through the first sector. This is Irib versus Krupinski. Only 8/10 between them. There'll be 2 laps to go. They cross the line next time. Sally Ulick, our race leader, him being over 20 seconds down the road. Won't be too long before we actually see him come across to start the final couple of laps.
Chavez has actually just set a personal best in the middle sector, so he's responding to Vincent Abril closing in. You know, at the end of this, we'll keep saying, you know, someone's used their tyres more, someone less, but it's ultimately what the position you are on track. And Chavez has been in third for a while, and Abreu is one position behind him. So Chavez has done the better job when you look at the results.
Yep, Chavez up 5 places, biggest mover in the field. Nezov and Christian Hahn also doing well when it comes to moving up positions. Here's Sally Ulick on the penultimate lap of the race now, as also coming through picture. So Nick Moss has crossed the line. He's got a 3.2 gap to Enrique Chavez, as Enrique Chavez has just set the fastest lap of the race, 2:01.6. He was almost 3 seconds quicker than Nick Moss that time. If he does the exact same time next time, then Enrique Chavez is going to be right on the tail of Nick Moss going on to the final lap of the race.
And we were talking about Moss and Chavez being, what, 8 or 9 seconds apart a few minutes ago. Took our eye off that battle, and we're looking at a different battle, and suddenly Chavez has closed in.
This is the battle for second in Pro-Am. This is Brendan Irib. That is Patrick Krapinski in the number 88. This is another battle going on. Right, this is the Nick Moss battle. So Nick Moss is in the green and black colours at the head of screen. There is Enrique Chavez behind. Vincent Abriel no longer a part of this battle unless these two start to fight away with each other. Then Abriel might have a chance to close in. Nick Moss with the headlights beaming now. He's going to be looking in his mirrors a lot here, and all of a sudden the Optimum Motorsport team are going to start feeling a little bit nervous. They're still going to take victory in the Pro-Am class, but it's going to be a little bit of a scare to see Enrique Chavez closing in at the rate he is, because he's gone purple once again through Sector 1.
And there's been a change in position for 9th. Alexei Nezov is now only 2.5 seconds behind Nicky Lutweiler for second in Am class, but because of the 3-second penalty, Nezov is now ahead, so he'll be on the second spot on the podium in that class. Which will be a change of position, and it does look like Chavez could get past on the next lap. The next lap is the final lap, which Sally Ulick has just started.
Yep, Sally Ulick, he's through turns 1 and 2. He is on the final lap of the race, but this is where all the attention is. Can Nick Moss hold on to second? He's the one leading this trio, but this driver here, Enrique Chavez, since climbing in the car, has flown through the order. And Enrique Chavez in the number 59, he is currently showing to everyone why he is the championship leader as he closes in on Nick Moss. But this is Sally Ulick. We haven't seen much of him at all. I'd say we saw a little bit more of Charlie Eastwood, but it's been a very lonely race, isn't it, for Sally Ulick. Since getting in, he's just done his job. The Turkish driver, he's built more of a gap, kind of doubled the lead that Charlie Eastwood has built for him. And Sally Ulick is on his way to take a race win on this last lap. Nick Moss, by the way, has been able to keep the gap at just under 2 seconds to Enrique Chavez through the first sector. So I'm sure we will come back to that one after we see Sally Ulick come across the line. But what a performance it's been. TF Sport, a fairly decent start to the season last time out. They finished in 6th place before going on to take a podium. But as they come through the final few corners, they are now going to take a race win. It's the first time we're going to see an Aston Martin on the top step since Red Bull Ring last year. As around the final couple of corners, TF Sport are going to take the race win here at Paul Ricard. Sally Ulick is going to be the one to bring the car home, and Ulick and Eastwood win race 1 here at round number 2 at Paul Ricard. Fantastic performance from them. They take the top step of the podium, but who is going to be joining them on the podium? Who's going to be standing alongside them in second? It looks like it's going to be Nick Moss, and with a fantastic performance, the Optimum Motorsport team are going to win the Pro-Am class and take second overall, and you can see what it means to them. Nick Moss finishing in second place overall there. Enrique Chavez, he's delighted with that. He takes third place, another podium for them, and that will keep them in the lead of the championship. And finishing in 4th place race winners from round 1, Vincent Abreu and Louis Pret. It's an Optimum Motorsport 1-2 in the Pro-Am class, and rounding out the podium is going to be Patrick Krapinski for JP Motorsport. But that, your race winners there, really, at TF Sport. Brilliant job from them. We'll round it up in just a second, because here is going to be 7th and 4th overall. One of the Teo Martin Motorsport cars across the line. It's Christian Hahn, and they look pretty happy with that one. And after that, we'll wait to see our Am winner, which is going to be Jens Liebhauser. Had to hold off pressure. We're on board with Jens now as he comes out of the final corner. And 3 races on the bounce this season, 3 wins for Jens Liebhauser and his teammate Florian Schultz as they come across the line, unbeaten in that class so far. And Nicky Luttweiler, was he able to hold on to it just about there as he come across the line? Alexei Nezov, we don't know what on earth happened there, but Alexei Nezov, with that penalty for Nicky Luttweiler, is going to be 2nd in Am, and Nicky Luttweiler is going to round out the podium. So that penalty unfortunately coming back to bite him. And then Stefan Ortelli will be 11th, Valentin Pierberg 12th, and then your non-finishers being headed up by Yannick Mettler, Stefano Coletti, yet to finish a race so far this season.
The final lap, and he closed in massively at the end of the Minstrel Straight, and then through the final corners closed in, but just couldn't get past. Here's a replay of our winner about to cross the line. TF Sport's probably one of the busiest teams in this paddock. They've done World Endurance Championship at Spa last weekend. They did British GT at Alton Park, I think. They've done another GT Sport series. So yeah, they've been all over Europe racing, and I think it's a great reward to win a GTOpen race after such a busy schedule like this.
I can only agree with that. That is fantastic stuff from them. Very pleased. There's Charlie Eastwood there in the middle of the picture, just congratulating the team, and they are your race winners. So confirmation of your results: Ulick and Eastwood win from Moss and Osborne. Your Pro-Am winners, Ramos and Chavez, round out the podium. Pret and Abreu on the Pro podium, and then rounding out the Pro-Am podium, Irib and Milroy, Krapinski and Klein. Hahn and Hahn finish in 7th place. Then Schultz and Liebhauser taking the win in Am from Moseev and Nezov, and Nicky Luttweiler rounding out the top 10 and your Am podium. And the top 10 of race 1. Then we had Ortelli and Negro, Pierberg and Hook, and then a real bad day at the office for Lazarus. Both cars not making it to the end. What does that do to the championship? Well, let's have a look. It means that we have Charlie Eastwood and Sally Ulick tied on points with Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez, and then 7 points behind Louis Pret and Vincent Abreu, and just 8 points behind is Klein and Krapinski. Marcelo Hahn 5th, Alan Coder 6th. 10 points between your top 5. Of course, though, we are only 3 races in, and there is Sally Ulick. They've had wins in the World Endurance Championship this season, and now they get to add to that an International GTOpen win as well. They just keep getting better and better in this championship. They are ones to watch coming into it, and it was probably only a matter of time before they were going to go and take a race win. And 3 races in, and they tick it off the list. We'll hear from Sally and Charlie shortly as Alfredo gets ready to speak to them.
It's the tailwind, you know that. That's why I said.
But fantastic racing all round. We are off to a great start here at Paul Ricard for round number 2 of the 2020 International GTOpen. Beautiful weather to board it with as well, and we do it all again tomorrow. We are going to be racing once again tomorrow, qualifying at 10 o'clock, and then we'll have the race at 40 minutes past 3, 60-minute race. It'll be tomorrow, so do make sure you join us for that. But first of all, we do have a podium to do, and we have our race winners we need to hear from as well. I'm sure they're going to be over the moon with that. And Aston Martin back on the top step as well. Always good to see a mixture of manufacturers sharing the top step of the podium. So finishing 3rd place in race number 1, Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez, and that result, a recovery drive from them, leaves them joint leaders in the championship. Second place, brilliant performance and a pro-am win for Optimum Motorsport with Nick Moss and Joe Osborne. But no one could beat out front TF Sport. They take their first race win of the season. Sally Ulick and Charlie Eastwood, that result making them joint leaders in the standings. Let's go and hear from them now.
Charlie Eastwood, Sally Ulick, victory in this very hot afternoon at Paul Ricard. Charlie, how was it in the first stint?
Yeah, it was great. We got off to a good start, able to take our normal line into turn one, and really just the first 2 or 3 laps I wanted to make sure when the guys are battling behind I can really try and make the gap, which we did. And then the car, just from the first lap to the last lap, was perfect. As the fuel came off, the balance shifted, but it was so fast the whole way through. And yeah, came in, and Sally obviously jumped in at the end, and same thing, just solid laps every single time. And yeah, great to get our first win in GTOpen.
Sally, it's a happy return to the GTOpen for you, for TF Sport. Happy?
Yeah, of course we are happy. The car felt great. We always knew we were going to be within the shot for this week. I mean, I didn't have to do much really. Charlie put it on pole, did a really good lap in the morning, and then gave me a good gap. Like I only needed to manage really without any dramas, and yeah, here we are.
Well done, guys.
Thank you very
Podium
much.
now. All the
Thank
best.
you.
International GTOpen got underway with Charlie Eastwood leading us from the front of the field as they charged their way down towards turn number 1. There would be early dramas with the likes of Louis Pret and Vincent Abriel. Get-Speed Performance ran into problems as they made contact with Nicky Luttweiler, as we will see here, and unfortunately that saw them having to go across the runoff. Thankfully all got away unscathed, but no one could catch Charlie Eastwood out in front as he led away. Team Lazarus, this would be the start of many problems for them as we saw them locking up going into the chicane. Sadly would be a real race to forget for Lazarus. That was SBS Automotive, not a happy return for them this season as Christian Hook found himself facing the wrong way. This was Team Lazarus after a poor start trying to recover, but a recovery that wouldn't last very long as we saw them there going past Nicky Luttweiler, the number 28. That was with Petru Umberescu. That was the moment Crestani took a spin. Then we had the pit stops. Sally Ulick jumping in for Charlie Eastwood. The number 72 Optimum Motorsport, Joe Osborne, would hand to Nick Moss in the lead. And after the stops, we did it all again. And we had the recovering Teo Martin Motorsport car after a difficult qualifying, charging through the order. Likewise, the AF Corsa car of Louis Pret. This was Vincent Abriel making 2 moves into that last corner in as many laps, as he then had to just hold off to secure that move going in towards turn number 1. But out front, a controlled race from TF Sport. Charlie Eastwood and Sally Ulick taking the race win. It was 6 wins in the championship for Sally Ulick and his 9th podium finish. Smiles all round for Sally Ulick and Charlie Eastwood, and a brilliant performance from TF Sport with Aston Martin back on the top. Time for the podium then. We're going to get the overall podium underway first. And here come the drivers. You can see Enrique Chavez up there, he finishing overall in 3rd place. They came into this, the championship leaders as well, but difficult qualifying for he and Miguel Ramos. They finishing in 3rd place. 2nd overall though, and winning the Pro-Am class. A fantastic performance from Joe Osborne and Nick Moss. Nick Moss, at the start of his stint, looked like he was going to be caught, but then he turned it on when he had to, and he finishes in 2nd overall with a Pro-Am win. But taking their first win of the season, it's 6 for Sally Ulick in the International GTOpen. TF Sport taking the race win, Sally and Charlie Eastwood. He didn't have many racing incidents, but that was one getting onto the podium there, wasn't it, for Sally Ulick. TF Sport representative from them, they are the winning team. Now we'll go to the anthems. Well, that your overall podium then. British run team TF Sport, so good result for them, and good drives, all three of them. Sally Ulick, Charlie Eastwood winning overall. Nick Moss and alongside him Joe Osborne on his first race of the season. They finished second and third. Enrique Chavez and Miguel Ramos at the overall podium. And impressive drives. Good race, wasn't it? Shall I turn you on? There you go.
Yeah, turn my back on. Yeah, it's quite easy to look at drivers who charge up the order, especially in the second stints, and go like, oh, that was the driver of the race. But Charlie Eastwood put, was it 10 seconds in his first stint over the driver behind him? So I think Eastwood's probably driver of the day.
Okay, thank you very much, Elliot. We'll both be back tomorrow. We'll be out for qualifying at 10 o'clock local time. Racing will be at 40 minutes past 3. Hope you've enjoyed the first race. If you have, make sure you're back tomorrow for race number 2.
Sur la deuxième marche du podium, voiture numéro 7, l'intérieur des parties, il vient du team anglais Optimum Motorsport.
So Pro-Am Podium now coming up next. Finishing in third place in the Pro-Am class, it is JP Motorsport, Patrick Kaprinsky and Christian Klein. Second place up next in Pro-Am class. Good drive for Optimum Motorsport is a 1-2 for them. Brendan Irib and Ollie Milroy finishing in second. But your winners, of course, they were second place overall. Nick Moss and Joe Osborne on the top step. And we'll have a representative from Optimum Motorsport coming up onto the podium as well. But brilliant performances from Optimum Motorsport. They 1 and 2 with JP Motorsport back on the podium once again after their win in the first race of the season. Celebrations then. Fantastic racing, fight back from some of the pro teams, as we were talking about earlier. Pro-Ams, really strong entry from Pro-Ams this year, and they are giving the pro teams a run for their money, as proven there by your race winners in Pro-Ams, Nick Moss and Joe Osborne. But very competitive grid, and it's going to be a very competitive championship. So we'll go on to the Am. That will be our final podium before we do wrap up. And Am, another closely contested field, particularly for second in class. It was closely contested for the lead for a long time, but finishing third in class was Nicky Luttweiler. Did it all on his own, did Nicky Luttweiler. Did a great job to finish third. He would have been second had he not had a penalty for the pit stop. Came out of the pit stops a little bit too quickly for his handicap, and that meant a good drive from Alexei Nezov, who closed in. He and Alexander Moseev jumped up to second place. It was really close between them across the line, actually. But taking the win in Am, it's going to be Jens Liebhauser and Florian Schultz. They take the Am class win. 8th, 9th and 10th, not far apart, all three of them. They were split by around 9 seconds, so it was pretty close racing between these guys. But we will be back for qualifying at 10 AM tomorrow local time.
Allez,